Hi folks, welcome back to another one of our short videos, and today I'm going to take you around a hi-fi system that we've just completed in a VW Tiguan. Now this is a particularly nice system. Customer had a reasonable budget to play with, so we've been able to get some really nice kit in there, but at the same time it's not over the top, it's not going to kill you, it's not going to break the bank. It's just a nice audio system, the kind of stuff that we're doing week in and week out. So as always, the most important part, or one of the most important parts of the installation, is the acoustic work inside the door. So in this case, we've obviously completed the 3-layer soundproofing system, which is the outer skin. We take out the regulator, completely soundproof the inside of the door. Then we soundproof the regulator and all of the back of the door card. We create some really strong, rigid baffles down the bottom here to mount the bass drivers. We've gone for Mille Legends in this car, so it's a two-way component. So the woofer sits down the bottom, the tweeter sits up there. I'll show you that in a second. So one of the nice things about this VW is you can actually get a larger woofer in there. So the Mille Legend would normally be with a 6.5-inch woofer, but actually they make a 7-inch driver, which is rather funky. So that's what we've got in here. So it helps with mid-bass and efficiency, of course. The tweeter, the Mille Legend tweeter, we've got in on axis on the A-pillar builds. So we've created these builds. It's the third set we've done this week actually, so we've been pretty busy with A-pillar builds, and we need them to get these kind of tweeters in the right position. You can see the other side there, so that all looks very pretty, lots of work in there. You know, it takes a couple of days or about a day and a half to do a set of A-pillar builds properly. And they're beautifully finished, as you can see. Now, the powerhouse of the car is actually a JL Audio VXI amplifier. So just down here you've got a VXI 606. And that has an onboard digital processor, optical in, etc. It's a fantastic little amplifier, Class D. It's great having an onboard processor. There's less wiring, everything's tidier. Less chance of failure, because actually one of the biggest failures we have are interconnects. And you know, we buy expensive interconnects from all of the top manufacturers. In fact, we do get the occasional failure, so having an amplifier with a built-in DSP of course eliminates that completely. We're using a JL Audio 13 TW5 woofer here. It's a fantastic woofer. We're working with the JL Audio pre-made enclosure. We could have built a custom enclosure in there, but that's actually, that driver, once you take into account the wadding, is in the optimum size enclosure. It's designed and built by JL, so it should be right. But we don't always take account of the wadding when we calculate the box volume. So the 606, the signal comes in here on most, so I don't know if you can see it, that tiny little Toslink, sorry not most, tiny little Toslink connector there. That's bringing in the signal in a digital format. So this does all of the processing. It's then got 6 channels, so 2 channels for the front woofers, 2 channels for the front tweeters, 2 channels for the rear components, which are actually running in a passive mode in here. Then you've got the 601, which is a 600 watt RMS amplifier, just to drive the TW13 subwoofer here. During the installation, we've completely stripped the boot, of course. We've thoroughly soundproofed the floor, and we've built everything back up again. We've created a baffle down the bottom here on an amp rack. You can't see it, it's glued to the floor. It's never drilled in, it's always glued. And the subwoofer here to retain the subwoofer. It's quite cool where you've got the spare wheel fixing in the bottom there. We weld up a little T-piece of threaded bar, lock it into the spare wheel retainer, drill a hole in the back of the box, plate it, washer it, and the box is actually physically bolted down to the floor of the car. So the only way to get that out is to take out the driver, so that's there to stay. And then we build the whole thing back up again, and it's custom wanted to retain his tools, which we've managed to do. So it's all in there nice and snug. Of course, we've soundproofed the tailgate as well. Now, it's a cracking sounding system, but one really important factor, as everybody knows, the most important part of a hi-fi is always going to be the source. So here we've got the factory head unit, which can be lacking. However, in this case, we have managed to reprogram the head unit and activate the most output. So we have coded it for external amplification, which means it enables the most, which is the fiber optic loop, which would normally drive an external amplifier. We have then used a Zen module, which is a most to optical Toslink converter. So it's running at 48 kilohertz output, and we've got optical output from this factory head unit. So in other words, once you plug your iPod in or your iPhone in and you're running Apple CarPlay, because this head unit has Apple CarPlay, we've got a digital output from the head unit that runs all the way through the car and plugs directly into the VXI amplifier. Now that is so important and makes so much difference. You can't do it with every car, of course, but we have managed to do it in here. So what that means is, without having to use a streaming device or anything like that, straight from the factory head unit, we've got amazing SQ. And this car sounds really good. Spent all of yesterday tuning it, all of yesterday afternoon tuning it. I've come in this morning and, as always, couldn't resist plugging the laptop in and playing with it a little bit more, just to kind of get the final tune and get it just right with a fresh set of ears. Always makes a difference, I find, in the morning to recheck a car. This customer is a ex-DJ, or maybe he still DJs. So he's got a huge collection of music which you can't buy in the shops. It's stored on iPods. So when he gets here this morning, we're going to spend some time creating another curve. So we've created two curves, one full of driver, one for a neutral time alignment position for driver and passenger. And I've created a third one for his older recordings, which, lacking in bottom end and top end, we've almost created a bit of a smiley face on top of the curve which we've used to flatten the car. So when David gets here this morning, we're going to spend a little time on the laptop, we're going to play some of his tunes, and we're going to just fine tune that third audio setting to suit the music and the quality of the recordings that he has. This is all controlled by the DRC controller, so it's a funky little knob there. Now the outer ring controls the level of the subwoofer. The back ring here, as you rotate that, it controls the level of the rear speakers. So it enables us to bring the rear fill in and out, which is of course time aligned with the front. Each time you press the button, it changes colour to tell you it's working on a different preset curve. So that's quite a funky bit of kit. You don't really need to see it, you can have it hidden away, you can hear the difference easily between the curves. In the back of the car, again, because the customer has opted for rear speakers, we've fully soundproofed the back doors. And in the back, we've gone for Audison Voce components, a 6.5 inch, but this time in the factory location. So you've got the woofer down there, and you've got the tweeter behind the original grille. Obviously, we're not so worried about soundstage in the rear. What we're trying to create is a nice listening experience for the people in the back of the car. And of course, with that extra mid-bass time aligned to the front, it's got even more punch. So there you go. So lovely little system, affordable. It will be reliable. It sounds amazing. The customer, I hope, will be over the moon when he picks it up. It's always an exciting thing, handing over a car on a Saturday morning when you've spent a long time working on it. It should be a good result. Thanks very much for watching.